In part 2 of the 9.11 refines, we're going to cover Valentines Gustav plus the remixes for legendary female Shez and Mythic Medeus. Gustav is a fun unit because that Valentine's banner he was on is when we got Savior skills. Definitely not a game-changing mechanic or anything. Now Valentines Gustav is an axe army unit with high attack and defense, very good base HP as well. For his Loyalist axe, after acting or at the start of enemy phase in 8th Raid's defense, Gustav will deploy Divine Vein Stone Terrain within 2 spaces for 1 turn. This is a slaying weapon. If foe initiates or has above 75% HP, Gustav inflicts attack and defense debuffs equal to 6 plus 10% of his flat defense stat. He deals true damage equal to 20% of his defense in combat, and if the foe can make a follow-up attack, then Gustav gets 75% damage reduction on first attacks with an S. So far, strong start. Gustav gets attuned Hector's Stone Terrain effect, and he got more debuffs plus true damage. Big update is that Gustav's 75% DR effect now works on brave hits. He must get doubled, otherwise you won't get this damage reduction. For the refine, for allies within 3 rows or columns, Gustav grants plus 5 attack, defense, and res. He gives them 7 flat damage reduction and pre-impulses -1 instant cooldown before their first attack. For himself, Gustav inflicts another -6 attack and defense, and he gets 20% defense as flat DR. He doubles this amount against enemy specials. Gustav also has pre-impulse, and last, the OG Savior gets the Twin Save effect. Gustav can proc %DR special effects twice if they only usually work once per battle. Pretty solid stuff for the king. Gustav adds long range support on top of his Stone Terrain, and he gets Excel flat DR that scales off of defense. Gustav also getting the 20% DR effect is very interesting combined with his 75% regular DR on first attacks. For playstyle, Gustav could run around with player phase skills like Assault Rush, but obviously he's fine with tanking on top of his Stone Terrain. 50% DR against AoE specials and 10 flat DR versus regular specials. The refine gives a ton of % DR and flat DR effects. Naturally, you can combine this with one of the newer Fighter B skills for just more true damage and flat damage reduction. Gustav has a lot of options. You can run Slick or Wily Fighter 4 for debuff or field buff neutralization. You could take the other one in the Sacred Seal slot. With Assault Fighter, Gustav gets 50% DR piercing. Counter Fighter can help with cooldown, although that one doesn't give a free follow-up like the others. If you want, Gustav could use Shield Fighter, but the 20% DR effect doesn't affect defensive specials. You also want to run Briar Save because, well, Twin Save doesn't stack. With Briar, Gustav gets another 5 flat DR, and he'll get some damage reflection on his counter. You can choose between near, far, or physical save versions. If you go with the physical one, you will need distant counter, and you can't use armored blades or beacons since those are reliant on melee or ranged foes. That brings us to the topic of specials. With Slang and Pre-Impulse, Gustav can proc armored blades or beacon on his counterattack, but he won't ready their % DR unless you run Counter Fighter or the enemy has a special. This is why he has the massive 75% regular DR. The same will be true for Flame Wall, except it will not charge if the enemy only hits once. You're gonna need Breath type cooldown for that one. Now, important to know, if you want to run Arch Rival or Comet, the 20% DR effect does not affect those in any way. Those specials will not protect you on follow-up attacks at all, which is what Gustav is expecting, unless you can get the KO on his counter first. Arch Rival and Comet builds want to go for that one-shot KO. This means Hardy Bearing to deny Desperation, and then you probably need another cooldown support. Going back to the Armored Specials or Flame Wall, Gustav could use Twin Save for extra protection on follow-ups. If you pre-charge these specials with, say, Counter Fighter and the enemy has Brave attacks, you will use both % DR chances on the first 2 hits. Instead of this, you can rely on the 75% regular DR for the first 2 Brave hits, then use the unpierceable 40% DR on hits 3 and 4. This isn't a foolproof plan, but unless the enemy has 100% DR piercing regular Brave attacks, then Gustav could get protected on all 4 hits. Now, if the enemy charges special on, say, their second Brave hit, then Armored Specials or Flame Walls effects will kick in anyway. Essentially, Gustav has some interesting scenarios depending on your special choice. With all of that said, it obviously is riskier to get hit by follow-up attack or quad attack. If Gustav can get the KO with his counterattack, then problem solved. Now for other skills, Diluvial Boost or Earthfire Boost are great for the 8 slot stats. Gustav has Close Defense 4, which does neutralize field buffs, but no attack boost. Besides distant counter skills, you could run Fortifications for DC since Gustav sets up the Stone Terrain. Besides DC Echo, not the best options for attuned skills. Guard Echo is probably the next best thing, though you could also try something funny like Wings of Mercy. All in all, Valentines Gustav gets a solid refine. He can work with many different setups, and he provides some support now. Next up, legendary female Shez gets her refine and remix at an interesting time. Right now, the new ninja banner has a Ninja Shez ult, who is also a blue dagger infantry with basically the same main perks as her legendary form. Now, besides the legendary blessing bonuses, you could just use the new ult if you don't have this Shez. I'll talk about their differences after we go through the upgrades. Despite being swords, Shez's Asura Blades is an 8 might dual phase brave dagger. Shez will get a flat +5 to all stats now. She has 7 flat DR and neutralizes stat debuffs during combat. If Shez outspeeds the enemy, she gets red type cooldown. Basically, Shez gets more stats and damage reduction. For the Refine, at start of turn and after acting, inflict exposure, plus speed and deepen shackle onto closest foes and foes within 2 spaces. In battle, Shez can get up to +11 to all stats if there are 3 foes within 3 rows or columns. If she has 5 advantageous statuses, Shez can also get up to 25 true damage. Potentially an extra +16 attack, defense, and res, and +11 speed is very nice for Shez. 25 true damage plus exposure is also great with brave hits. As we will see shortly, Shez is incredibly dependent on outspeeding, speed and defense shackle, and in-combat debuffs. For her remixed Swift Slice A skill, Shez gets some new tools. At start of either phase, if within 2 spaces of an ally, grant dodge and low statuses to those allies. In combat, Shez can get +9 to all stats, another 7 flat DR, no guard, and 50% DR piercing. Last, Shez keeps her effective damage effects. If initiating against a human infantry foe, if Shez has 20 or more speed, she gets effectiveness against all weapon types in combat. For all other enemy types, if Shez has 5 or more speed, she gets the same effective damage. Overall, Swift Slice 2 ain't bad. No compliments Shez's debuff neutralization, since she must outspeed not only for breath type cooldown and dodge, but to get the effective damage. Very important to note, Shez has effectiveness against weapon types. Any dual Mars Fire Emblem status only neutralizes effective against movement type effects. As for other perks, Shez has no guard for consistent special charging and 50% DR piercing. More flat DR is nice, and technically she did get +1 extra stats on this skill. I'll cover Ninja Shez fully in the banner breakdown, but for now, the main differences are that Ninja has Sling, Hexblade, no follow-up, and speed and defense field debuffs with Sabotage. Ninja does not neutralize debuffs, and they do not have breath type cooldown or no guard. The speed and defense debuffing method is also different between these Shez's. Ninja's going for field debuffs, Legendary uses in-combat debuffs. As part of her remix, Shez got Seal Speed and Defense 3. This skill always tries to inflict -9 debuffs in combat. If the foe has field debuffs, you lower the in-combat ones. Basically, Legendary Shez is trying to get around debuff neutralization. Normally, I would not recommend Seal B skills, despite their comeback attempt, but I understand why it's here. It's mostly because other options overlap. For example, Speed Taker's great talent stacking is awesome, but it's super slow if you do not fight. The speed debuff neutralization and no guard effects are also covered by Shez already. If Speed Taker were to get an offshoot, it will probably be a great option. It is next in line now that we pried a momentum side grade off of Sigurd's Spiteful Hands. Now for Disarm Trap B skills, Full Disarm grants more speed and defense debuffing, but again, no guard is covered. You can use Potent Disarm, but if you need more upfront burst, then you probably want something else. Low Finish is finally getting a speed and defense version, but Shez already has low as a status. The true damage and flat DR is really good though. As for Assassin Strike, that might get an upgrade very soon since we just got an upgrade for Occultist's Strike. If it's the same perks, then Shez already has breath type cooldown, but the flat DR and Fatal Smoke perks wouldn't hurt. One thing Shez wants for sure is no follow-up. You could use the Tier 4 no follow-up B skill, or the Sacred Seal, or Odd Speed Wave 4. Shez already has Attack and Speed Oath 4 for buffing and warping though. If you can supplement those buffs, Active Lookout is incredibly fun. You get Kanto 2 and Desperation for a brave attacker. Now Ninja Shez has a new Lookout Smog, which is an option for tanking better. Part of this refine and remix is giving Shez a ton more bulk, and Shez now has % specials she can utilize. Comet is on Ninja Shez because effective damage means higher attack, which means higher base damage and thus more Comet damage. Arch Rival's the other % special. If you're struggling with certain red units, then the Scowl plus Guard effect might be more helpful. For other special options, Miracle is an option, but it's 5 cooldown. Lethality can charge in 2 hits and you can give a full DR piercing hit. With Creation Pulse, you can get -2 cooldown since Shez now inflicts statuses that would allow lethality to proc on the second brave hit. For budget specials, Shez can also just use Glimmer for 2 hits, or Astra can be the stand-in for lethality. Overall, female Shez is still entirely focused on outspeeding. If she fails, she loses her effective damage plus some other perks. Her biggest struggle will be outspeeding human infantry foes. A plus 20 speed check is not easy to meet, especially when we get a new speedy swordmaster every month. Now, if Shez needs to quad for a KO, she most likely will have to take extra % DR via Comet or Archrival. While I would say she has some enemy phase potential now, do remember the effective damage perk is tied to player phase only. Last Refine for this month goes to the original final boss, Mythic Medeus. He is a colorless dragon built for bulk, and the boss man is here to make sure his lackeys do all the hard work. Starting with Shadow Breath, at start of either phase, grant plus 6 attack and res, on guard, fringe bonus, and bulwark to allies within 2 spaces. Medeus gets plus 3 attack, and if foe initiates or has high HP, he inflicts minus 6 attack, defense, and res. Medeus will prevent 1 follow-up attack, he neutralizes enemy field buffs, and he can deal up to 25 true damage if he has 5 advantageous statuses. Big upgrades here, Medeus adds bonus doubler 4 and bulwark to his support buffs. For himself, he gets low and a big true damage boost based on statuses. He also lowers enemy defense now, which can be useful because he has adaptive damage versus ranged foes. However, Medeus has another reason for it. Moving on to the Refine, Medeus inflicts more debuffs equal to 5 plus 10% of his flat res stat. He gets flat DR equal to 20% res with double the amount against specials. Last, Medeus has Scowl if he wins a res check. More debuffs, more bulk, and anti-special measures. Everything here is reliant on stacking res. Now, for his remixed B skill, Assured Rebirth Plus, at start of either phase, Medeus inflicts minus 7 attack, defense, and res, Frozen, and Sabotage on closest foes and foes within 2 spaces. For himself, Medeus inflicts another minus 5 debuffs. He inflicts Guard. He gets a free follow-up. He deals true damage equal to 20% res and gets another 20% res as flat DR. And before getting attacked, Medeus will also get minus 2 cooldown. For the last effect, this was the original Dragon Wall plus bonus % DR if Medeus has nearby healer or dragon allies. If you out-res by 10 or more, you can get 40% DR via the Dragon Wall portion, and if you have one healer or dragon ally, you get the max 60%. You can also just have 3 healers or dragons nearby. Alright, so more res based on true damage and flat DR, guard, and Lagu's friend cooldown for Medeus. To add to his support, he inflicts 3 debuffs along with Sabotage to double them. Last, you got Frozen, which is why Medeus now inflicts defense debuffs. I would say Frozen's more of a bonus for Medeus himself. You can focus on stacking defense, but so many other things require stacking res or winning res checks. The boss man is a dark mythic, and boy did he just get a lot of new support effects to deploy while he stands there looking scary. As a reminder, On Guard is Medeus' personal status that neutralizes out of combat damage. This would be things like Poison Strike, Savage Blow, Flame Tower damage, or the Bolt Tower. That will include Gromel's funny Bolt Axe. If you wanted to protect your team from that damage, then this could be a fun tag team. Gromel would also love Frozen. In general, try to get speed debuffs and speed and defense buffing to complete the Sabotage and bonus doubler setup. With Bulwark, Medeus can make it harder to get around his teammates, and he already had Contour Control, but that's getting updated to Firm Contour Curve with this remix. It's a nice gesture, but it pretty much only counters Dual Leon for Mortis and Sather's turn-ending effects. It doesn't stop Heimdallr's Foresight Snare, it doesn't stop Legendary Sakura's Salvage, and it doesn't interact with any extra action type effects. While Contour Control is annoying for sure, you could replace this with something like Emblem Corn's Ring. You set up the Icicle and Vert Terrain combo, which also has Contour Control on the Vert tiles. If you want to open up that C slot, you can also use other support skills like Breath of Life for healing, Barricade for Warp Bubble / stat support, or Pulse of Ploy. Medeus does have respectable res, and you can stack flat res with things like Fortifications or Stronghold. When it comes to Comet, Medeus can use the Dragon's Roar special. He already wants to win res checks for Scowl and Dragon Wall, so why not include the special % DR as well? If you end up getting out-resed, well, it wasn't going to end well anyway. With the new Lagu's Friend style cooldown, Medeus won't charge Dragon War immediately, but he has Scowl, so that might allow him to tank a basic attack before his hopefully 60% DR. If the enemy doesn't have Guard, Medeus can fire back with his special, and then he can get the % DR for follow-up attacks. That being said, Medeus does not have Lagu's Friend's DR piercing specials. If you want to go for higher burst damage, you can use Ice Wall instead. With his new defense debuffs, you could also use Dragon Flame. Medeus will need some extra cooldown to proc these 4 cooldown specials for a counterattack. If you just want to go for guaranteed % DR, then Medeus can also use Comet. It's 5 cooldown, but it does charge itself every turn, so if you can stall a little bit, then it might be ready for a counterattack. For other skills, Medeus could stack Scowl effects, or you could stack a little more % DR with things like Counter Roar as a seal. He can make use of either D bonus doubler or amp for distant counter, and of course dragons have their DC Sacred Seal as well. In conclusion, Medeus gets a lot of good support effects just for standing around. He isn't super advanced in terms of combat, but he got a ton of new flat dare effects and some nice cooldown manipulation. Not too shabby for the original Big Bad. That will be it for the update 9.11 refines, or part 2 of it. Let me know your thoughts and have fun with the new skills. If you missed part 1, we ended up talking about refines for New Year's Kiza, Benny, Constance, and Zeke. Please check that out if you missed it. I'll be back soon to talk about the Ninja Banner next. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.